the pianist, and although she'd never been to one of his concerts, she imagined what it must be like to play in front of a huge, adoring audience. Clayderman's music was continually played on the CD player she had saved up for, although neither of her parents could understand why she liked solo piano music when she could have been listening to good old country music like Slim Dusty or Kenny Rogers or even Anne Murray. It wasn't that she didn't like the country scene. She loved all sorts of music. Music is putting a sound to your feelings, her great-grandfather had always said. There is a piece of music for every emotion. Chelsea had always agreed with that, and it didn't matter to her if it was a modern pop song or a piece written hundreds of years ago. If she could feel what the music was saying, then she loved it. And the music helped calm her when she wanted to scream and yell at her mother, who had never understood her. To her, it was neither here nor there that the piano she was playing was slightly off-key and an upright rather than a grand, with worn yellow ivories rather than glossy ones. She didn't hear anything but the music swirling up into the rafters of the concert hall and the applause afterwards. All right, that's enough. I said pack up," Mrs. Marr snapped, bringing Chelsea abruptly back down to earth. "Is your mother picking you up today?" Chelsea's fingers itched to keep playing, but she knew that tone. Reluctantly, she took her hands away and placed them in her lap. "I think so," she sighed. "I've got netball practice this afternoon." She scowled at the thought of running around a court, playing a game that held no interest for her. Gathering up her sheet music, she stuffed it into her bag. She hated netball and the after-school training. It meant time away from her horse, Pinto, and the piano. But her mother had been an A-grade goal defence and thought her daughter should be exactly like her. Unfortunately, Chelsea was nothing like her mother, not in looks, stature, or sporting ability, or in personality. Her mum was tall and willowy, which had helped her in playing a goal defence. Her shiny black hair was usually tied up in a ponytail, and she kept fit playing sport and working on the farm. Chelsea was shorter and a little heavier than she should be. Her hair was an uninteresting mousy brown like her dad's, but she had inherited his crazy coloured eyes, sometimes brown, sometimes blue, depending on what she was wearing. Dale, her annoying older brother, said her eyes made her look like a mad woman, and according to him, she looked even crazier when she was playing the piano. "Get stuffed," was her standard reply. Those words were exactly what she wanted to say to her mum when she dragged Chelsea to after-school practice and yelled advice from the sideline. Wednesdays were a special kind of torture for Chelsea. Mrs. Marr broke into her grumpy thoughts about the afternoon's activities. "Where's your practice book?" Chelsea fished around in her school bag, then brought out a tattered A4 notebook and handed it over, so Mrs. Marr could write down all the boring scales and exercises she was supposed to do before next week's lesson. Not that she did them often. After a moment of scribbling, Mrs. Marr handed it back to her, and Chelsea looked at what her next week's practice would be. To her surprise, she saw the scrawly handwriting said, "Play. Play whatever you like, but make sure you play for at least 2 hours per day." Chelsea blinked as the book was snapped shut with such force it sounded like a clap. "I'll see you next week. Make sure you practice everything I've written down." That was her standard line, and Chelsea wanted to ask why she'd changed it from tedious chords, arpeggios and scales, but instead she shoved the book into her bag and hoisted it over her shoulder. "See ya!" she threw over her shoulder as she rushed into the bright sunlight and heard a voice calling her. "Chels, have you finished?" Her best friend, Lily Jackson, was sitting underneath a large pepper tree. "I've been waiting an age." "Yeah, I'm sure she kept me in there longer than normal. Got this idea I have to do everything perfectly." She slung her bag down and pulled out her plastic lunchbox, hoping against hope that there was something left in there from yesterday. Her stomach had been rumbling ever since she'd realised she hadn't packed her lunch this morning. The curried egg sandwich would still be on the kitchen bench, where she'd left it before she'd ridden her bike to the end of the driveway and caught the school bus.